Secret societies tend to attract swindlers, opportunists, embezzlers, and adventurers more readily than others, exactly the kind of people we find easiest to work with. These individuals eagerly integrate into any system without asking too many questions and become convenient cogs in the vast machinery we have designed. Anyone who begins to resist or question the flow of events can always be restrained, because we alone possess a complete understanding of where nations are headed. We know the ultimate purpose of every process. We control reality, while the masses, the GOIM slaves, have no conception even of the immediate outcomes of their own actions. They live according to momentary calculations, seeking the satisfaction of vanity and fleeting happiness, which they perceive as natural, without realizing that their involvement in any political or social act is merely the execution of a program we've pre-established. They don't even suspect that the thoughts they consider their own are merely echoes of our influence, our hints. And let them believe that they are choosing their own government, parties, and president. This makes them all the easier to manipulate. The illusion of freedom of choice, when in fact no such choice exists, is the most effective form of control. Secret organizations have governed society from the shadows long before people even began to question who actually makes decisions. The most well-known of these structures, the Illuminati, Skull and Bones, Scientology, Rosicrucians, the Isari, the Templars, and many others, are united not only by their principle of secrecy but also by their possession of knowledge inaccessible to ordinary people. This knowledge gives them an unfair but effective advantage over the masses. They guard these secrets jealously, passing them on only through initiation, trials, and internal selection. In every society, there exists only a narrow circle granted access to the true essence. The rest are merely a shell, a facade. Over time, many of these organizations were either destroyed or forced into deep underground existence. Today, very few members remain active, but those who have survived wield real influence. Most attention is focused on the Freemasons. Their presence is felt everywhere, although they skillfully remain hidden in the shadows. And while it's publicly known that Freemasonry has existed since the Middle Ages, its true history is shrouded in countless mysteries. Originally, the Masons were responsible for building grand structures, chiefly Gothic cathedrals throughout Europe. But gradually, their craft shifted from the material to the philosophical and occult. They began working not only with stone, but with concepts, symbols, ideas, systems of governance. The founding of the Grand Lodge in Britain in the 1700s marked the point of transformation, from a guild of craftsmen to a global ideological order. From the 17th century onward, Freemasonry began to spread rapidly, first across Europe, then to other continents. In each country it evolved, adopting local forms, creating distinct rites, orders, initiation structures, and rituals. Despite the variations, the core idea remained unchanged, a synthesis of biblical worldviews with the so-called anti-world, which stands in opposition to official morality. Freemasonry is a mystical, religious philosophical movement that embedded itself into bourgeois society not as its opponent, but as its shadow. It has its own cult, dogma, rituals, hierarchy, and seeks involvement in all key processes, especially political ones. This is why Freemasons so persistently embed their brethren into various parties, government institutions, financial systems, and authorities. They do not act head-on. They operate slowly, systematically, imperceptibly, generation after generation. An atmosphere of secrecy has always surrounded the lodges. Their closed nature, silence, and concealment of true aims have allowed Masonic organizations, under certain conditions, to become not only centers of philosophical or religious inquiry, but also real headquarters for political influence, revolutions, crises, manipulations, and global strategies. One of the key philosophical principles of Freemasonry is the concept of detachment. They never speak openly, never justify themselves, never deny, and never publicly support anyone or anything. Their style is silence. But this silence is a strategy. It allows them to act without resistance. And while the masses quarrel among themselves over politics, religion, nationality, and language, those who rule from above remain unseen. Many researchers trace the origins of Freemasonry to deep antiquity, long before our era, before the emergence of Christianity. Some see in it a legacy of Jewish mystical sects that arose after the exile from Palestine. Others believe the first lodges were the craft guilds within Roman legions, which accompanied soldiers to conquered lands. There is also a legend that modern Freemasonry is the direct descendant of the Order of the Templars, who continued in a new form after part of their brotherhood was destroyed. Freemasonry has always been a game between light and shadow, between the architecture of matter and the structure of thought. Mountains of books, hundreds of studies and documents have been written about it, and yet it remains an enigma, a detective story without an ending. And perhaps that is precisely where its strength lies. In historical perspective, Freemasonry appears as a complex phenomenon combining philosophical, religious, mystical, and political elements. Its ideology was often used as a tool of propaganda and influence, particularly in the context of orchestrating conspiracies in various countries, participation in global wars, and contributing to economic crises. One of the defining characteristics of Masonic lodges is the strict adherence to the principle of non-interference in public space. Their representatives do not speak openly, do not give interviews, do not deny accusations, and do not express support or criticism toward anyone. This silent strategy allows them to act covertly but effectively. The origin of Freemasonry is often interpreted as something almost outside of history. Some analysts trace its beginnings to the dawn of civilization, or even the time of Christ. This is linked to deep analogies between Freemasonry and other historically known secret societies that had religious mystical foundations. In the works of foreign researchers, one can find the assumption that Masonic structures may have had links to Judaic pagan sects that emerged after the expulsion of the Jews from Palestine in the 1st century AD, around the same time Christianity was spreading. Another widespread theory of Masonic origin is tied to Roman craft collegia, professional associations of artisans who accompanied the legions of the Roman Empire to conquered territories. These groups built fortifications, roads, and cities, while maintaining a high level of organization, which may have laid the groundwork for the first lodges. There's also a legend that modern Freemasonry is the spiritual heir of the Knights Templar, a powerful religious military order destroyed in the 14th century. Some knights who escaped persecution are said to have preserved their structure and knowledge, which later evolved into a new form, the Lodges of the Freemasons. Numerous books and studies have been devoted to Freemasonry, highlighting its development, philosophical foundations, and political activity. When the reader immerses themselves in the history of this movement, they find themselves in an engrossing detective story, where events unfold against a backdrop of real tragedies, wars, revolutions, bloodshed, and social upheavals that affected millions of people across different eras. By the 18th century, Masonic lodges had already spread throughout North and South America. This period is considered the era of the formation of the modern Freemason movement. Since then, Masons began playing an increasingly noticeable role in European political life. According to some historians, every palace coup in the Russian Empire during the 18th century occurred with the participation or approval of Masonic circles. In France, they played a decisive role in preparing and executing the French Revolution. After that, nearly all major revolutionary movements in Europe involved active participation from Freemasonry. The structure of Freemasonry is built on a clear hierarchy. The first required stage for any novice is entry into the so-called Blue Lodge. It consists of 3 main degrees: apprentice, fellow craft, journeyman, and master mason. These levels serve as an introduction to a broader system of initiation, which many Freemasons themselves consider merely a preparatory stage for attaining higher knowledge. It is known that some Masons acknowledge the intentional deceptiveness of Blue Lodge teachings. The symbols, parables, and rituals of the first level are said to conceal truths that are revealed only to those who demonstrate worthiness and loyalty to the Brotherhood. Like other secret organizations, Freemasonry has its own system of symbols, rituals, and esoteric knowledge. These elements are never presented openly to the outside world. They are either hidden or deliberately distorted. Only the chosen ones, those who have undergone the proper path of initiation, are granted access to the true meanings of this knowledge, which, according to the teachings, contains deep understanding of the nature of the world, power, morality, and the human soul. For centuries, Freemasonry has remained one of the most influential, yet simultaneously most secretive forces in world history. Its role in shaping political processes, ideological shifts, and public thought remains a subject of debate, research, and speculation. Freemasonry has a system of initiations, beginning with the so-called Blue Lodge, which is mandatory for anyone who aspires to become a Mason. The Blue Lodge includes 3 basic degrees: Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and finally, Master Mason. For most Freemasons, these 3 degrees are only the starting point on the path to higher truths and deeper knowledge. Many Masons openly acknowledge that the teachings of the Blue Lodge are deliberately constructed to be essentially symbolic, and even somewhat deceptive. This is done to hide the true, profound knowledge of Freemasonry from those who are not yet ready to receive it. Until a person reaches a certain level of initiation and proves their worthiness and dedication, the truth remains inaccessible. Freemasonry, like many other religious and secret societies, hides its most vital secrets behind false interpretations of symbols and rituals. It is known that some famous Masons, who spoke publicly about the organization, such as Albert Pike, admitted that most Masons do not even know the true content of Freemasonry. They receive basic knowledge, but the real secrets remain hidden behind the walls of the higher degrees. Because of this, many Masons develop the false impression that there are no secrets, whereas in reality, the key knowledge is kept beyond the Blue Lodge. The higher degrees, which grant access to deeper secrets, belong to the so-called Scottish and York rites of Freemasonry. A person can be considered for these higher initiations only after successfully completing the training and passing through the 3 basic degrees of the Blue Lodge. The most well-known and widespread of these rites is the Scottish Rite. In this rite, there are 33 degrees, but to this day, only a very small number of Masons, about 30 people, reach the 33rd, highest degree. This level is awarded extremely rarely, approximately once every 2 years, and only to those who have made an exceptional contribution to the development of the organization. However, even the 33rd degree is not the ultimate limit. There are even higher, secret levels of initiation, which are often referred to as the Golden Pyramid, from the 34th to the 99th degree. These belong to extremely closed branches of Freemasonry, accessible only to the chosen few. The highest branch is the so-called super secret, or high frequency, part of the Masonic hierarchy, consisting of 22 levels known as the Hierophant Magi, or Hermits. The entire Masonic pyramid in its structure is divided into 5 main groups. The 0 level, which encompasses all major forms of Christianity. According to some sources, this is the level where initial preparation takes place. Levels 1 to 3, the Blue Lodge, the foundation of the Masonic organization. Higher degrees, including the Scottish and York rites, granting access to deeper philosophical and esoteric knowledge. The Golden Pyramidal level, very closed and influential degrees. The highest, extremely secret group that supposedly has the greatest influence on the organization and even on global political processes. There is much speculation and assumption that members of these higher degrees of Freemasonry are the ones who make key decisions on the world stage, influencing the politics and economy of various countries. Many world leaders, according to some sources, are Masons occupying important positions in their governments. Such a hierarchical structure allows Freemasonry to maintain control over information, power, and influence in various spheres of life, while preserving deep secrecy and conspiracy. Thus, Freemasonry is not just a brotherhood of craftsmen but a complex, multi-level organization with its own hierarchy, rituals, and strict selection system, where true knowledge and power are available only to a few of the most devoted and worthy members. Freemasonry consists of several groups and levels, each with its own symbolism, colors, and special rites. The third group encompasses levels 1 through 7 and is marked by the color red. This is the so-called St. Andrew's Freemasonry. The fourth group includes levels 1 through 33, and its symbolism is associated with black and white colors. This is the Scottish Rite. The highest levels of Freemasonry are known as the Golden Pyramid, or the Jewish Pyramid. These highest degrees are extremely closed, and according to many researchers, they exert the greatest influence on politics, the economy, and other spheres of life worldwide. The influence of Freemasonry extends to the highest levels of power, to the level of all governments and state institutions. Masonic ideology, symbolism, and values permeate modern society, shaping not only political decisions but also our daily culture and mindset. And most of the time, we are not even aware of how deeply this influence penetrates our lives. Even more intriguing is the fact that many outstanding individuals, geniuses, leaders, and thinkers, have been among the Freemasons, and they truly possess some secret knowledge. Among them are prominent figures of world history and culture: Mozart, Sir Winston Churchill, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Mark Twain, Henry Ford, and many others. The list of such names is quite long. This raises the question, what exactly were the secret teachings they possessed, and why are these teachings guarded so strictly? Masonic secrets often intersect with ancient philosophical and esoteric teachings, particularly Gnosticism, as well as knowledge from ancient pagan traditions. The essence of these teachings can be reduced to four main laws that, according to researchers, provide the ability to shape reality and influence the world around us. One of the most famous Freemasons, a mystical philosopher named Mali Parho, outlined these laws in numerous writings. Parho is considered one of the greatest Freemasons to have ever lived, and he put great effort into revealing these secret teachings to the broader public. His ideas are presented in several books, the most famous of which is The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Videos about his philosophy and life have already been published on our channel, and links to them can be found in the description. However, understanding his teachings proves to be a difficult task, as many read them too literally. Especially today, in a world dominated by literal interpretations of information, people are often unable to see the deep symbolism and hidden meaning contained in these texts. One of the key problems is that many sacred and esoteric texts have either been forgotten or misinterpreted over time. Often they were understood literally, in a way that can be seen or touched, while the true meaning lies in symbols, allegories, and hidden meanings. The ability to analyze and decipher these teachings is the key to understanding their deeper significance. This idea is confirmed by a biblical example. A disciple of Jesus Christ asks why he speaks to people in parables. To this, Jesus replies that the knowledge of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven has been given only to his disciples, but not to others. That is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see; though hearing, they do not hear or understand, he says. This is the prophetic fulfillment of Isaiah's words, that many people do not perceive spiritual truth due to their own lack of preparation and inner readiness. Thus, Freemasonry and its secret teachings are not just a mystery of the past, but a living tradition that influences the modern world. Understanding its fundamental laws and symbols opens the door to deeper knowledge of oneself and the surrounding reality, and also shows that true knowledge is always hidden behind the facade of external forms. Blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. These words carry special meaning, as they allow us to derive a very important truth. True knowledge is not just belief, which leaves room for doubt, but a deep awareness of something that is obvious and unquestionable. Faith often means telling ourselves, "I'm not sure about this, but I believe it." Whereas knowledge is complete certainty, when the existence of something is undeniable. The four fundamental laws that are embedded in many ancient philosophies and mystical teachings must not only be studied, but realized and fully integrated into one's life. When this happens, these laws cease to be mere theoretical knowledge or external practices. They become an inner way of being, a new form of functioning, which will lead to a profound transformation of consciousness and life itself. The first law is the law of awareness. It is a central theme in Masonic teachings, the teachings of Manly Palmer Hall, and many Buddhist and Hindu traditions. This law says that the key to knowledge and peace is a deep awareness of the nature of reality and oneself. Manly Hall wrote that, "Wisdom is nothing but a deeper understanding. It loves all things because it sees the beauty, the tenderness, the sweetness that lies at the heart of the mystery of life." The key word here is source. Many people believe that thoughts, money, fears are the source of their suffering, and they strive to get rid of these factors. However, life, both physical and mental, flows in cycles and waves that are impossible to avoid. The more we fight and run away from these processes, the stronger our internal resistance becomes. True liberation is not about getting rid of thoughts or problems, but about reaching the so-called zero point, the state of the source from which all processes come. This is a point beyond the physical and mental, beyond all external events and internal reactions, the true I, which does not depend on either thoughts or feelings. The ancient yogas knew this and expounded on it in their writings. The teachings of Patanjali, set out in the Yoga Sutras, more than 3,000 years ago, describe how all reality arose from nothing. In the beginning there was emptiness, nothingness, which began to realize itself. This awareness gave birth to movement, which caused the emergence of consciousness, and movement in consciousness created the mind. Movement in the mind manifested the body. Thus, everything in our life is a manifestation of internal processes. Therefore, many physical ailments have their roots in problems of the mind. Accordingly, the treatment of such ailments is possible through working with mental processes, liberation from negative thoughts and emotions, harmonization of the inner world. This gives us the understanding that true power and knowledge are in conscious awareness and acceptance of the source of all existence. Only by reaching this level of awareness can we free ourselves from suffering and become the master of our lives, creating our reality consciously, and not under the influence of external circumstances or chaotic thoughts. The effectiveness of the placebo effect and the power of simply changing thought patterns that form a completely different result in life and contribute to the healing of the body prove that in order to create something truly meaningful and valuable in our lives, we need to connect to awareness. But how can we achieve this? Awareness is activated the moment we begin to use the ability to observe. When we carefully and non-judgmentally observe everything that happens outside, in the physical world, and everything that happens inside, at the level of mental processes. It is observation itself that becomes the key method. You can right now, together with me, observe everything that happens around you, any problems you face, any good events, thoughts and emotions, both positive and negative. In this process, there is no evaluation, no division into good and bad, there is only pure, neutral observation. The main task is to connect to the emptiness, to that state of pure awareness, before creating anything new, because if we do not step out of the usual framework of the mind, any creation will be distorted by our current state of consciousness. Staying in awareness is realizing as the true source of everything, seeing yourself as the source, and not as something separate to strive for. This means realizing and understanding that I am, without labels, without attachments and self-identification. When you say, I am this person, I am this age, I have these feelings, you are creating an attachment to the mind and its constructs. If you go further and simply become aware of yourself as pure am, without any definitions or judgments, then simple observation arises. And it is at this moment that you begin to connect to awareness. For example, when you observe your breathing, or some physical process that occurs subconsciously, without trying to interfere or change it, simply recording the inhalation and exhalation, you are already in a state of pure observation. There is neither good nor bad in this. There is no judgment, it is an absolutely neutral activity. To fully connect to awareness, two basic conditions must be met. The first is complete acceptance of everything that happens, both outside and inside. No resistance, no desire to change or reject what is happening. Absolute acceptance of reality as it is. The second condition is zero judgment, the refusal to assign any evaluation, whether positive or negative. All events, experiences, sensations, they simply happen, without being either good or bad. This can be difficult to accept, especially when something causes suffering or discomfort, but it is precisely in this acceptance and absence of judgment that the power of the observer lies. You become unshakable, imperturbable, unaffected by the influence of external and internal waves. Simply observe everything that is happening, and from this state, a space for choice opens, the choice of what you want to create next. This brings us to the second law, the law of clarity. As soon as we connect to a state of awareness, The possibility arises to see reality without distortions of the mind, without habitual filters and prejudices. Clarity allows us to see things as they truly are, and this becomes the foundation for conscious creation and the transformation of one's life. To truly create, in the full sense of the word, it is necessary to go beyond the chaos of the mind and the instability of the physical body, to enter the space of awareness, and begin creating from a state of inner clarity. Clarity is the foundation. Imagine for a moment, when you feel genuine confidence, it arises from a state of inner emptiness and focus, from a crystal clear understanding of what is happening, not from uncertainty or chaotic emotions. True confidence requires no effort, no pretense, no puffed-up chest, nor any attempt to convince anyone. It arises naturally, as a side effect of deep clarity. That is why most people who try to appear confident are, in reality, simply playing the part, covering up inner confusion with an external mask of strength. But the true state of creation requires something else. It requires honest and deep understanding of what you want, and no less importantly, understanding of what you absolutely do not want. Without this inner honesty, your thinking will be impure, and thus the reflection of reality will be distorted, like a fogged-up mirror. Manly P. Hall wrote in The Secret Teachings of All Ages that a person's position in the natural world is determined by the quality of their thinking, and the quality of thinking is always determined by the purity of thought. If your thoughts are filled with fears, resistance, hidden resentments, or unconscious programs, they create a fog on the mirror of your life. The reality that reflects these thoughts will be blurred, ambiguous, and unpredictable. Every step forward will be accompanied by 2 steps back, and so on in a cycle. When you truly clarify for yourself what you want, why you want it, and who you must become for it to become possible effortlessly, you break free from the loop. This knowledge is already inside you. Every time you think about the level of income you desire, the type of relationships you crave, or the life you are striving for, that knowledge of who you must become is instantly activated within you. You simply need to stop hiding from this knowledge and allow yourself to see the truth. Even simple honesty with yourself, when you sit down and answer these 3 questions, what do I want, why do I want it, who must I become, already initiates a deep process of transformation capable of radically and irreversibly changing your reality. And here we come to the 3rd law, the law of creation. To understand it, it is worth turning to one of the greatest sages in history, Hermes Trismegistus. Many are familiar with him through the famous esoteric treatise The Kybalion, but few have considered that Trismegistus translates from Greek as thrice great, reflecting his mastery on the 3 levels of being, physical, mental, and spiritual. The Egyptians called him the god of all gods, because he achieved harmony between body, mind, and spirit. This triad is the key to creation. If your spirit desires one thing, your mind thinks another, and your body does a third, no creation is possible, except the creation of chaos. Only when all 3 levels are synchronized does the pure power of intention arise, capable of materializing the conceived. The spirit sets the direction, the mind focuses, the body acts. And when everything works as a single flow, then every gesture, every word, and even every thought become an act of creation, not reaction. Creation is not just a dream or visualization. It is the internal agreement of all your levels. It is the acceptance of responsibility for your being and the decision to be the source, not the consequence. Only then do you become a true creator, one who shapes their reality with purity, clarity, and power, akin to the ancient masters whose names were carved in stone and passed through the ages. This complete mismatch between the spiritual, mental, and physical planes is the main reason why most goals remain unattainable. When these 3 levels do not work in unison, energy dissipates, intention loses its power, and the likelihood of successfully realizing the dream becomes extremely low. That is why awareness and clarity are critically important. To master the densest and most material part of our existence, the physical plane, it is necessary to take concrete actions. The simplest way to bring this plane into order is to simply go out into the world and start doing what is necessary, without delay. Many modern gurus or visualization teachers claim that it is supposedly enough to just sit on the couch, visualize wealth or success, and the universe will bring everything itself. But this is essentially an illusion, detached from a real understanding of the nature of being. This delusion stems from a misunderstanding that the mind, spirit, and body are inseparable aspects of a whole, and they do not exist independently of each other. All three planes are interconnected, and if you truly want your goal to become reality, you must involve all levels of your being in this process. Action is mandatory, but at the same time, it can be ineffective if your internal beliefs and mental images contradict the actions. If you doubt, if your spirit does not agree with the direction in which you are moving, and you act through force, through resistance, forcing yourself to do what must be done, you create internal conflict that slows down any attempt to manifest the desired. True creation does not come from tension, but from coherence and ease. That is why we talk about choosing the path of least resistance, when the mind, spirit, and body move in one direction. The next level to master is the mental plane. It is activated through visualization or through a clear mental representation of the result. It is not necessary to see it as a movie or picture in your head, although some can do this. For others, it may be just a mental affirmation, a deep inner knowing that the goal is already achieved. It can be a mantra, affirmation, or setting with which you synchronize and which you constantly maintain in your mind. Mental representation is the energy that directs actions. It is the power of intention. When your intention becomes clear, each of your actions acquires direction and meaning. And finally, the highest plane, the spiritual. It requires not effort, but presence. Mastery of this plane is achieved through the practice of meditation, deep inner silence, connection with the source, with your true self. Meditation is not just sitting in the lotus position, it is a state. It is a return to the 0 point, to pure witnessing, where you simply are aware of what is happening inside and outside, without involvement, without judgment, without analysis. It is entering a space where there is no I as a role, but there is I as being. In this state, you connect with the energy from which everything is born. It is meditation that allows you to remember that you are not just a personality living in a body, but consciousness capable of directing creative power into matter. And now, when you are in harmony on all three levels, physical, mental, and spiritual, the path to the fourth law opens, the law of coherence. This law states, only when your intention, your actions, and your internal state are in complete agreement do you truly create. Without internal harmony, there is no genuine manifestation. All great masters, from ancient Hermes to modern sages, spoke of the same thing: power comes from integrity. And if you feel stuck, it is not because you lack talent, knowledge, or effort, it is because one of the planes is in dissonance with the others. When you align your being, when your breath is calm, your mind is clear, and your actions are directed, everything begins to change. Then there is no need to fight the world, because you yourself become the source of changes. Then you do not wait for someone or something to give you what you want, you simply create it, because you know who you are, what you want, and why you deserve it. In search of deep understanding and personal transformation, many turn to teachings that combine ancient wisdom and modern practices. One such source is the book by Manly P. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, which examines esoteric traditions, symbolism, and philosophy passed down through the ages. Hall explores the influence of Freemasonry, Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and other teachings on the development of human consciousness and society. In particular, Hall emphasizes the importance of awareness, clarity, creation, and balance as fundamental principles that enable a person to achieve harmony and realize their potential. These principles resonate with the teachings of ancient traditions such as yoga, Buddhism, and Hermeticism. The first principle, awareness, lies in the ability to observe what is happening without attachment and judgment. This allows one to go beyond the limitations of the mind and connect to a deeper level of perception. As Hall notes, wisdom fears nothing, but with initiation and deeper understanding, it loves all things as it has seen the beauty, tenderness, and sweetness that lie at the heart of life's mystery. The second principle, clarity, implies a clear understanding of one's goals and intentions. Without clarity, a person may wander in search, not achieving the desired. As Hall writes, Man's status in the natural world is determined, therefore, by the quality of his thinking. The third principle, creation, is associated with harmony between the spiritual, mental, and physical planes. Harmony of these levels allows for effective action and goal achievement. Hall emphasizes that if my spirit wants to experience something, but in my mind I think of something else, and physically I do something third, this is complete inconsistency. The fourth principle, balance, lies in the ability to let go of expectations and trust the process. When a person is too attached to the result, they create resistance that hinders goal achievement. As Hall notes, when you stop expecting results and simply focus on the process, suddenly everything starts happening by itself. Mastering these principles requires practice and inner work. Meditation, visualization, observation of thoughts and actions, all this helps develop the necessary qualities for realizing potential and achieving harmony. Thus, teachings like those presented in Manly P. Hall's book offer a path to self-knowledge and inner transformation, based on ancient wisdom and modern practices. If we could truly direct 100% of our intention's energy not to the fear of failure, not to doubts, not to anxious expectations of the result, but to complete freedom of internal movement, to the easy, I don't care what happens, I am free, God is with me, I act. Then it would be as if a burden falls off us. We no longer try to fit the world into our ideas, we no longer fight reality, we no longer try to control life as if it poses a threat. Everything we do begins to happen from a state of complete internal freedom. We act because it is natural, we create because it is our nature. And if we fail, well, we will learn from it. It is not the end, it is part of the path. Failure is not a catastrophe, but feedback, a mirror that helps us adjust our internal compass. When we stop fearing it, we become truly invulnerable. This is the state of balance, when you no longer waver between fear and hope, between desire and resistance, between attachment to the result and fear of losing it. When you live in this space of free intention, everything begins to flow naturally, gently, effortlessly. Everything you start is born from high energies: love, play, inspiration, co-creation. Your energy flows freely, does not get stuck, does not block. In every word, in every action, you present, clear, alive. I would like to apologize in advance for any errors in the text or dubbing. I am just learning, and the language this channel is written in is not my native language. The dubbing is done using artificial intelligence. Please point out any errors so that I can correct them and improve the quality of the content. I would also be glad if you shared your thoughts on the topic. Your support in the comments really motivates me to continue looking for new, interesting stories. Thank you for your understanding and participation. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss new stories.